Let's see what we got. Let's get some people in here. Why does it take so long for YouTube to like put it out? Can anybody answer that later on in the comments? Oh, why does it take my iPad so long to like set this up? I don't understand. For YouTube to rebroadcast it when I'm broadcasting live. Okay, almost a minute in and there's 0. My gosh, isn't there interest anymore in this case? Okay, I got the live set up here on the iPad. And I'm going to turn the volume down. Hey, there's one. That's probably my iPad checking in. Hey, bunny. We get enough people in here, I can show you, Amelia. Oh, thanks for the thumbs up, whoever just came in and did that. Appreciate it. Yeah, we haven't even started yet. We already got a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Let me just let some people get in here so I don't have to like go over this over and over and over. Let me turn on the main TV monitor, see if anything breaks while we're on the air. This case is just getting crazier by the day. This Nancy Guthrie situation. Oh, okay, wow. Turn down the volume on that so we don't get in trouble here with YouTube. Hey, buddy. You need a treat? Let me get you a treat while we're waiting for people to come in. Yeah, if you're watching this on the replay, just fast forward through the first 3 or 4 minutes. And then we'll get, once we have about 5 or 10 people in here, we'll get going. Looks like there's one person in here. Me, myself, and I. Actually, it's me, my iPad, and somebody else. 2 thumbs up. Thank you so much. Kitty, please don't shake the camera. Here, we're going to put your food down here. Come over here. And you don't have to shake the camera. There you go. The viewers will think we're having a California earthquake. Let's get some people in here. Let's get some people in the chat. 3 minutes. Wow, it seems like it's like 1 person per minute that comes in when we first get on the air. This is going to be regarding the latest on the Nancy Guthrie missing person case. I'm here in Los Angeles, but we're going to broadcast about what's going on in Tucson, Arizona. A lot went down last night. But I think my iPad is one of the little heads that's up at the top of the screen, so. Now we got 4. We're getting there. Come on in, people. 6 people. Hey, thank you so much. Come on in here. Let's get it going. Yeah, medically, I'm not so good today, so I'm going to keep this as short as possible. But I promised everybody I would come in daily to update everybody on what's going on. And I went on twice yesterday, but a lot happened after I went off the air. So I think we need to talk about that a little bit. Hey, bunny. 5 people. Let's go. Let's get it up. Some thumbs ups. Some red hearts. Let's just get it going. Bring people in. Oh, thank you. 7 people. We're getting there. Can anybody put anything into the chat and let me know if you can hear me? I know you can see me because I can see myself on my iPad, but I have my iPad muted right now. So let me know. It's funny. Somebody sent me a message on another video. Hey, West Country. And they said, can you just get to it? I'm like, no, I'm not going to make the whole speech. I just talk to the air and talk to my iPad. So you can hear me. Thank you. Hello from California. That's where I am. Husafel. Oh, I recognize you. What country are you new? If you're new, hit that thumbs up and hit that subscribe button and hit that bell. Loud and clear. Okay. Okay, let me tell you what happened since I went off the air last night. Well, first of all, during my second live yesterday, the police and the FBI had pulled over a suspect who was well, not a suspect, but a person of interest that was a DoorDash driver. And apparently he was driving with his wife and his kids on his way back to Rio Rico, which is not 30 minutes as misreported by another YouTuber. Yeah, there's a lot of boots on the ground and there's a lot of misinformation that we have to go through. You're done? All that? UK. Oh, wow. We're in the UK. Thank you so much for coming in. So basically what happened yesterday is the ransom had come and gone on Monday. Supposedly there's a rumor yesterday and today that it was paid by 5 o'clock Monday, the 6 million in Bitcoin, and it's been way more than 12 hours. In fact, it's more than 48 hours Tucson time because it would be 5:36 p.m. Tucson time. It's 4:36 here in Los Angeles. Southwest Torquay. Oh, I've been to the UK, but when I was just a little kid. Um, the ransom came and went. The deadline. It may or may not have been paid, but people are leaning. Bunny, don't eat my cord. Oh boy, we'd be off the air really quick. Got a little Dutch bunny down here, and she's very suspiciously looking at all my plugs and my cords. Okay, where were we? Okay, yeah, the Rio Rico was an hour away, or is an hour away. It's 56 miles to be exact, and it's only 12 miles from the American-Mexican border. It's near the town of Nogales, Mexico, which is, I believe, in the state of Sonora, Mexico. And I think there's only like maybe 20,000 people that live there. It's predominantly Hispanic. I don't know if it's, poor people, middle class people, a little bit of both, but it's a little teeny Spanish populated town on the Mexican border near Nogales. And a lot of people, a lot of the people that, have jobs in that town actually work in Tucson. They make that hour commute each way daily, Monday through Friday, including the guy that was the person of interest. And there was a lot of misinformation that came out about that guy because originally he was identified as a Carlos Alberto Parasuelos, and they showed a picture of him. Bunny, hold on. Oh, no, don't do this. They showed a picture of Carlos in the press, and they showed a 56-year-old man initially who had gray, salt and pepper gray hair and a gray mustache. And I'm like, well, that can't be him because the guy that's wearing the mask, at least, has got what looks like a black or dark brown mustache. It's hard to tell in a black and white, film in the middle of the night uh, with hardly any lighting in that neighborhood. But it definitely, the guy they were showing was a 56-year-old Carlos Alberto Parasuelos, and that particular man is listed in Tucson. And there's certain words I can't say here on YouTube, or we'll get taken off the air. But he is a convicted S offender, committed SA on a 14-year-old stepdaughter. And I saw that guy's picture, and I'm like, well, that can't be the guy. Now it turns out the guy that they actually pulled over also named Carlos uh, Parasuelos. I don't know his middle name. I don't know if he's related to the guy who is the S offender. Could be his son. Don't know. They might not even be related. But that Carlos is a much younger man who's married, who's got kids. He supposedly, him and his wife and kids are temporarily living with his mother in law. I can't recall her first name, but her last name is Maddox. She's uh, definitely Latina, but she has an American last name, Maddox, and she was completely like flabbergasted by this. Her son-in-law was pulled over on the side of the road by authorities for at least 2 hours in handcuffs. Going, hey bro, what the f is going on here? And in the meantime, the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff, they drive over to her house and they break the door down, reportedly, allegedly. Yes, he was a delivery driver, Hasafel, for DoorDash. He also is a package delivery person for another company in Tucson. So he goes to Tucson every week, Monday through Friday, between DoorDash and his package delivery. And because of his package delivery, whatever he was in I think a Nissan Rogue last night. He also owns, coincidentally, a white van. Now remember, a neighbor said that a couple days before Nancy's disappearance, that a white van with tinted windows was in the area. And I think most vehicles in Arizona probably have tinted windows, just because it's 100 to 120 degrees every day in the summer. So somebody pointed him out, called a tip line, and said, "Oh, I think it's him, and he's got a white van." And he does. He has a white van for his deliveries in Tucson. But he doesn't know Nancy Guthrie. His mother in law didn't seem to know her. She'd read about it on Facebook. They both seemed flabbergasted, like, how is, our Carlos getting picked up? And the Carlos that's going to be in my thumbnail, you'll see the thumbnail, that's not the same Carlos that was originally shown on the internet, including through a very major YouTube channel where there's like probably 500,000 people watching on that channel. They were quick to get information, but they were quick to release the wrong person. Like I said, could be father son, could be related, don't know, don't care. But the Carlos Parasuelos that was picked up is living supposedly on a temporary basis with his mother-in-law, this Mrs. Maddox, and she claims that they're waiting for Carlos to do his taxes so that they'll have some more money and they can get a new place. They were apparently evicted from their last place. He doesn't seem like a bad guy. Oh, Boston Bill. There she is. Hi, April. What do you think of this crazy mess? It's getting crazier by the moment. And I'll explain why. Did he ever go to Nancy's address? They asked him that, and he said he didn't know because he regularly delivers packages for multiple companies. Let's see. Everybody, if you're not subscribed to Boston Bill, I hear that he just started a YouTube channel. You might want to check him out. And Bill, I didn't get a chance with all the stuff that's going on in my medical. I didn't get a chance to see your live yet, later when it uploaded. So I will watch that hopefully tonight. So anyway, this Carlos, who's not the same Carlos who was the 56-year-old guy, and you can look that guy up. The other Carlos, Carlos Alberto Parasuelos, who is the registered S offender convicted of SA with a 14-year-old girl. That's not the same Carlos Parasuelos that they had pulled over on the side of the road. And I don't know if he had been door dashing in Tucson and they were on their way home, or they happened to also be door dashing part-time in Rio Rico. And unlike what was originally reported that it was 30 minutes south, no, it was 56 miles to the south. It's an hour drive, and it's in the middle of nowhere, small town, 12 miles north of the Port of Nogales, Nogales, Mexico. Most of the people there are Hispanic, probably Mexican population. This guy comes every Monday through Friday to work in Tucson, and I doubt that he is affiliated with this in any shape or form. He's definitely not the guy that was at the door. Now, there could definitely be, more than one person associated with this, but we've got several things that have gone down the last few days. We've got a picture of a lone person, apparently, and I haven't seen that story yet, but they just announced I just saw it come across my screen within the last 23 minutes. It's been reported by Fox News that a black glove reportedly was found along a road near Nancy Guthrie's home. Don't know anything about that. I don't typically watch Fox News. I haven't had time today, just because of my own, detective stuff that I have to do here at home. I have not seen that yet. I know they do still have authorities in the neighborhood of Rio Rico in the middle of all this while this was all happening last night. And this is just probably purely coincidental. Apparently, there was some sort of a traffic accident. where an 84-year-old woman was being transported via medical helicopter flight into Tucson from Rio Rico. It's very small. They may not have a hospital. They may not have a trauma unit. So, word got out on the scanner that the medical flight was bringing in an 84-year-old woman to Tucson, and that was going down at the exact same time that they had this poor Carlos Parasuelos pulled over on the side of the road. The 84-year-old woman that was brought to the hospital is obviously not Nancy Guthrie. If it was, they would have announced it by now, I believe. Oh, you were live again? Oh, I didn't get the notice. I got to make sure because I'm following you, Boston. Boston Bill. I'll have to make sure I've got the bell clicked. Hearts of Gold, here we are. I know you were here yesterday. Oh, it was Bonner Hospital. Hey, Karen, thanks for coming in. Yeah, so while this poor guy was being pulled over on the side of the road, and then he was never arrested. Let me make that very clear. He was never arrested. And I heard a rumor today through Nancy Grace. I don't know if it's true. I didn't see the whole show. That, he was bitching and moaning about not being read his Miranda rights. If you're not arrested, nobody has to read you your Miranda rights. Just saying. You can be detained in most places, up to 72 hours without ever being arrested. He was in handcuffs for a couple of hours. But I saw him on the news afterwards, after he was let go. And he was just like, bro, and he was just like, like, what's happened here? And his mother-in-law was the same way. And then she said, they asked her, has he ever been in trouble? Like criminal trouble. And she said, no. But then she backpedaled and she said, well, yeah, but when he was young. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. That doesn't match up with the information that the guy was a registered SA offender. And then I saw that guy's picture and I'm like, that guy's got the same name, but that's not the same guy. The guy they showed on the news last night who they had detained was not a 56-year-old man with gray hair. Are they father and son? Maybe. How many Carlos, Alberto Parasuelos are there in Tucson, Arizona, or in Arizona, period, And do we know if this Carlos, if he's even got the same middle name? Because originally it was reported that it was Carlos Alberto Parasuelos, and they've got this registered S offender's picture up. And I'm like, well, that can't be the guy that was wearing the hood, the ski mask at the door. Like, that guy's got a dark mustache. And this guy's got gray hair, like, it was just a big S show, okay? A crap show is a nicer way of putting it. And then at the same time, something happens to an 84-year-old in the same town of Rio Rico where probably nothing ever happens, and they have to get a life flight helicopter out there. And they're like, oh my God, we've got somebody who's a suspect or a person of interest pulled over in handcuffs. And at the same time, the helicopter, they're dragging away an 84-year-old woman. And it absolutely, none of this apparently has anything to do with Nancy Guthrie. Yeah, they need to check the physical height and weight on the video for comparison. Yeah, I haven't heard a follow-up on that. I don't know how tall this guy is, the guy that was on the news that was in the handcuffs on the side of the road. A lot of the info on Facebook and YouTube is BS. Yeah, and one of the stations, and I'm not going to mention his or her name, but they're a big YouTube channel, and there's probably 500,000 people watching, and that information, that name came out, I know, on that channel. I don't know if the picture came out on that channel. I saw the picture online on the internet, but I'm like, okay, something's not adding up here. And like I said, could this guy be that guy's son? Maybe. Hey, kitty. No. Your food's over here. Come on. Don't shake the table. Get down. Oh, okay, thank you. They all go crazy when I'm online. They said he had been on their radar. Okay, which guy? The DoorDash driver who is in Rio Rico? I know that guy, because he delivers packages for another company, not DoorDash, but another company, during the week in Tucson, that he has a white van, and it's supposedly disabled now. I don't know why he was on the radar. I heard him say in a newscast that an in-law called it in, but his in-law, like his mother-in-law, she was the one on the news that was defending him, going, that's not him. Like, because they showed her pictures of the guy that they got off the Nest Cam, and she was like, that's not him. That's not his clothes. Like, that's not him. I don't think it is. Could he be involved? I don't know, but they didn't even arrest him. So whatever they thought they had, apparently they didn't have it, or they wouldn't have just like released him without arresting him, or they could have at least held him a little longer if, brought him into the jail and held him, and they didn't do that. You heard Amazon. Yeah, I heard there was another company. I can't think of the name of it. It starts with a G, and they deliver a lot of packages for like Temu and things that are coming from China. I think that might have been the company. I also heard UPS. I heard that then there was a rumor that he worked for an electrical company in Tucson that may have done work at her house. I heard all kinds of things. I mean, it was just coming out faster than it could process. Um, yeah, that's what I said, Karen. A process of elimination. That's how I start a surveillance when, we'll say, well, what does a person look like? And they'll be like, well, he's a Hispanic male, middle aged, medium height, medium weight with dark hair and a mustache, and he wears jeans, t-shirts, and a ball cap. And it's like, okay, that's 90% of the people that come out of the building at 6 a.m. in the dark. Can you be more specific? And then we have to start the first couple of days of the case, we have to start getting the intel, doing the recon, and ruling people out through a process of elimination. And maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're just going down a list now that they have the pictures. But that guy, to me, did not look like the guy wearing the ski mask. They should check if Nancy has had a recent package delivery. They should, but remember, she didn't have the subscription on her camera. However, even though she did not have the paid subscription that kept the video, through a lot of effort, through some back-end systems, Google was able to retrieve the video that you have seen on the news of the night of the crime. Now, do they have more video than that goes further back? I think they probably do. But they're just, they don't need to reveal their hand to everybody. But they're obviously at a loss, the law enforcement community, they're at a loss as to where to go next if they release that footage. Like, hey, does anybody recognize this guy? Has anybody seen this guy? And in the weeks leading up to this, there were several trespassers that were in that neighborhood of the Catalina foothills, people walking around at night doing um, doing weird stuff that people have different footage of. So, but that could be a lot of different criminals. You know, this is a town that's close to the border. It may not be that safe of a town. I've not looked up the crime statistics in Tucson. Does anybody know how safe or how dangerous Tucson is? I know here in LA, like the bad guys, they don't go to the poor neighborhoods, they go to the rich neighborhoods where there's the multi-million-dollar homes. And apparently in Tucson, Catalina Hills and Catalina Hills Estates, that's where all the money is. So if there's people creeping around at night, that's probably the neighborhood that they would go to if they wanted to, commit a robbery. Black glove was found. They bagged it. Okay. My screen keeps switching over to screensaver on my YouTube channel on my main television. I just saw that it was Fox News. I haven't seen the video yet, but that they reported the black glove was found. Was that found on her street? Husafeld. They confirmed the backpack the masked man was wearing sold at Walmart. Yes, I figured so. Check Walmart cameras. Absolutely. Of course, there's a lot of Walmarts in Tucson, assuming this person is even from Tucson. I mean, it's something. It's something. It's still going to be a toughie. That's a lot of intel to go through. And how long does Walmart keep their footage? Most major stores don't. A lot of the cameras that are here in LA, and I know because of what I do for a living, you go to check with the city and they're like, oh, well, those are just surveillance cams. They're not actually recording anything. I know in the city of Burbank, which is next door, they have them on every intersection, and they're just watching them from monitors in the police station, but they don't necessarily record either. But I know that LA doesn't record, and they're on so many intersections, but they're showing the image live, but they're not recording it and saving it. And so that's what was the situation with the Nest doorbell cam. That's why it took so long to be able to go through the back end and be able to get what they got. You think it was in or near Nancy's neighborhood? I would think so. I heard it was found in the street. Is that true? Of course, that could be anything. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the same. But just uh, let's just confirm here. I just want to make it very clear that this person who was a person of interest last night has not been arrested for this crime and was already released without being arrested. And the town of Rio Rico was not 30 minutes away. It's an hour away, 56 miles on the Mexican border of Arizona and Nogales, Mexico. Karen says the shrub area or the shrubby area between streets. Okay. Wow. Or beside street. Okay. Of course. Very good point. Someone could have planted it there as a hoax. And you know what? If this guy that they pulled over last night, and he's got nothing to do with this. And remember, it's been reported that the ransom has been paid as of 5 o'clock Monday, and there's no Nancy. This confirms my original feelings from the beginning that this is somebody close to her that's involved. And these ransom letters could be a red herring, or they could all just be a total hoax, and it could be, somebody, in another country that's just, trying to score some Bitcoin. Supposedly, now here's a news story that just came out today, and it was broken by TMZ, so I believe it to be true. They received another ransom today, someone demanding 1 Bitcoin, and Harvey said that is equal to like $55,000 or $56,000, depending on, it's like the exchange; it goes up and down daily. Um, that someone is asking for 1 Bitcoin in exchange for information as to who has her or who kidnapped her. Like, we know who did this, and we will tell you if we get 1 Bitcoin. And that's probably another hoaxer. Okay, you're saying it's worth 65,000. Wow, I didn't know that. I've learned so much about this because I know nothing about Bitcoin. Approximately the award for the info amount. Okay, yeah. So besides the ransom notes that came to TMZ last week and it came to either one or two local Tucson news affiliates, they now have a new ransom today. Apparently TMZ does, saying we have information about this case, and we will provide that in exchange for 1 Bitcoin. There's also a belief that the family, and I don't know if this is true, that the family may have paid the ransom, but I don't know how you look that up. I know that Harvey Levin, per the first ransom note, he's got the name of the account that they wanted the money or the Bitcoin to go to. And he said there's been activity on that account. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. Person says he knows who did the kidnapping. Okay. Okay. There's also a man. What is his name? Uh, Let me throw this out here. I've seen, since they released this picture, people have been focusing more on the band that the son-in-law, who is Savannah Guthrie's brother-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, he was in a band, and he has a bandmate who he and that bandmate established the band together. He's a drummer. I can't think of his name right now. Evans. His last name is Evans. And people are looking at his photograph and saying he could be the guy that's wearing the ski mask at the front door. Now, if that's true, would that point to Tommaso's involvement as well or not? I mean, supposedly that guy is a convicted criminal with a long list of crimes. A lot of people are focused on him right now. Also, another name that's come up, I don't remember the name, but it was apparently someone is asking questions about Savannah Guthrie's first husband, who is not the husband that she is married to now. So his name has come up. I I'm not saying he's a suspect, but just in the press, his name has come up as this Evans, whose first name I can't think of, who is the drummer that was in the band that Tommaso was in, who is allegedly the man that has a long, lengthy criminal record, including burglary. The one with the rap sheet, including extortion. Yeah, what is his first name, Karen? Can you see? Can you look that up? His last name is Evans, and I can't even think of the name of the band. I think it was something black. April, I said that he may be involved. I think this is said and done. We're in for a surprise. We could be. Everybody's a suspect at this point. But, if the ransom was paid, as is being reported by some news agencies, if that was paid and we don't have Nancy, what does that tell you? That this may be what I said all along, that this may or may not be a legit kidnapping. It's not typical. Doesn't mean that it didn't happen, because obviously somebody took her. But did somebody come into the house and perhaps murder her, and then they carried her out, and that's why there was blood drops in the house, and they're not saying where in the house, but there was blood in the house found, which was her own blood. It's been determined by DNA, and there was blood droplets on the front porch outside the front door, and DNA did establish that it was hers. Now, apparently, though, there was other DNA that's also being tested, and they haven't said anything more about that. The eyes appear to match. What was his name? Okay, Hearts, no problem. Hussafel says you saw the comparison of the guy with the ski mask video. Very, very similar. Yeah, it is kind of similar. But what's his name? What's his first name? Last name is Evans. Anybody want to type that into Google? What was his name? Getting a little crazy, says Bill. I think it's a sham. Money is the motive, family involved. Very possible. Dominic. Bingo. I-9 bingo. Karen is correct. Dominic Evans. Is that correct? Am I saying his name right? Dominic Evans? Yeah. But he's been people have mentioned his name all along just because of his criminal history and his affiliation with the son-in-law. I think, they should have. You got to be careful who you choose as friends and who you choose to be close with you in your life, whether it's a romantic partner, someone you work with, someone who's your friend, who you bring into your home. You got to be a good judge of character of people. And I guess it's a pretty well known fact that that guy is not a good man. Rap sheet fits the profile. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a possibility. There's still the remote possibility that it's really a real kidnapping for ransom. And, after they kidnapped her and she didn't have her meds, she died, and then they were like, well, now what do we do? You know, the people, I can't say too much about this, but the kidnappers, plural, involved in the Ramsey situation, let's just say the primary, and I'm not going to identify that primary, they didn't expect that the person that was going to go into the house and commit the crime and remove the little girl, they didn't expect things to go wrong and for her to be killed. And that kind of like messed up everybody else's role in that when things went wrong. Somebody had brought up the movie Fargo yesterday. Yeah, things can go wrong. Things can go not as planned. It doesn't seem like this was very well planned out. Apparently all of her medication was left behind. I doubt they would have gone and, made a list of all of her meds and went to a pharmacy or drove across the border and got those pills to give to her. Like, I just, in my heart, I feel that she's not well. And I don't know if she was even alive when she was taken out of the house. I don't know. I don't know that it's a legit kidnapping. I think that the crime is money related, but is it kidnapping related? Obviously, she has been abducted. She was not found in her home, so she was removed from the home. But was she removed as a way to cover up a murder? Was she removed because there was a kidnapping? Um, I still think that in most cases, it's usually somebody that you know, and it's somebody close to you, and you have to look at the family and the friends first. But saw a video of AI removing the map in comparison to Dominic and Tommaso. Okay. Uh, beavers and ducks. What does that mean? Really can't wait to see what's next. I made a call to see if a little bird could talk to me waiting on a call. Oh, that's interesting, Boston Bill. Boston Bill says, did they confirm pacemaker was still on the charger in the home? Yet I believe she's deceased. Well, the pacemaker wasn't on a charger. It would be in her body. What was on the charger was her Apple Watch, reportedly, on the nightstand next to her bed. Oh, it's a movie line. Okay, I don't know that movie then. Hussafel, was there a driver or do they have a vehicle involved on video? They don't have a vehicle that they're admitting that they have, but they did take Tommaso and Annie's car almost immediately. They have since towed the victim's car. They have the white van that was seen in the neighborhood, and the guy that I think was probably wrongly a person of interest yesterday happens to have a white van that he uses for his deliveries, but it's broken right now. Foot of the bed. Let's see. What was at the foot of the bed? The Apple charger for the watch? Boston Bill says so many unanswered questions. And remember, this is just things we're getting through the through the media. I'm not officially, in any way, officially or unofficially working this case. I'm just reporting on this case, and I'm reporting what we hear in the media. And there's just so much information that's coming in so quickly, and a lot of it is not accurate. Especially the information about the church was totally not even. She doesn't even attend that church anymore. Like that wasn't even true. How am I feeling? Iffy today. We're reintroducing meds, and I had a little kidney pain last night, and I took a med today that's given me an excruciating headache, and I'm like, oh my god, I hope my brain is not bleeding. If I keel over here, you'll know why. um, knock on wood that I don't. Yeah, it's been 11 days. It's not good. She's 84. She's limited mobility. She takes a lot of pills. I think she's probably on a blood thinner. She's probably on heart medication if she's got a pacemaker. I mean, come on. I know a lot about cardiac stuff just because of the damage that I had from cancer treatment. Apparently, they don't know of any heart disease, but I have a lot of damage that was from the chemo, and that just took out. Ugh, Catherine O'Hara. I just loved her so much. She was fighting cancer at the time of her death, and she got an embolism, and people are like, well, how does she get an embolism? Like, how's that related to the cancer? It's probably 99% related to the cancer because the treatment affects your heart. It affects every organ in your body, and you can have a blood clot or an embolism. It's that simple. Um, it's nice if people don't understand because they've never had to go through that. They've never had to go through cancer, or nobody in their immediate family has had to go through that. I mean, look today, rest in peace, James Vanderbeek, he was taken out. What was he, 47, 48 years old? He's gone. Uh, from the time of diagnosis, about 18 months. It was just, bam. He's got a wife and 6 kids, and, they got no income, stuff happens. It's just awful. Do they speculate that Nancy could be in Mexico? It's always possible, but I don't think they have any evidence that she's in Mexico. Thank you for the prayers, Bill. It always helps. I believe in the power of numbers. I think that's kept me alive all this time. Um, let's see. We got 7 people in here and 8 thumbs up. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Hit those red hearts. If you haven't already thumbs upped it, thumbs up, everybody. So yeah, so this let's just recap. This Carlos uh Parasuelos, who was not the same Carlos Alberto Parasuelos that they were reporting at the beginning of yesterday evening. He's not the 56-year-old S offender. This is a younger guy who's a DoorDash driver. He was never arrested. He was detained for a couple of hours in handcuffs. Apparently, the FBI may or may not have broken down the door of his mother-in-law, who is a Mrs. Maddox, and apparently they don't think he's involved anymore. If they did, I don't think they would have released him so quickly. But hey, I didn't expect them to release the crime scene that quickly either, and then go back to it 15 times. It's all very sad. It is, and I want this to be resolved. I don't even know Savannah Guthrie. I know people who know her, but I don't know Savannah Guthrie. And this is gut wrenching. This is just gut wrenching. This is like a movie, and I don't want to say it's entertainment because that's just wrong, but it's just sucking the life out of everybody, like everything that our country's going through right now, and then someone as sweet as Savannah Guthrie is having to go through this, and her career may be over. She may never be able to come back. I'm sure she would be welcome to, and she's under contract. But how do you come back from something like this? She can't go back on the air now. She doesn't know where her mother is. There's other people at NBC that are scared. Like, is this related to her job? Is this related to the Today Show? Is this relating to an interview she may have done or is getting ready to do? Um, are there higher ups that are involved in this? Are other people targets? You always have to look at is there another target out there? Is there somebody else that's in danger because of this? Is this just a single crime? I just don't think that the 84-year-old woman is the main target of this. I just don't think so. Uh, much as I don't believe that JonBenet Ramsey was the main target in the Ramsey murder. Her parents were targeted. Um, she ends up, you know, dead in their basement, but I don't think she was the direct target. There's other stuff that's going on here, and I just have a bad feeling about this case too. That there's so much more that we don't know, and if they find her or they find the body and they find the people or person that's involved in this, it's all going to come out. Who would benefit from her not covering the Olympics? Good question. Don't know. Hussafel, I'm really surprised they haven't found Nancy or the perpetrators yet. Yeah, me too. Especially with the FBI involved. I mean, they definitely have more CSI ability than the local Pima County Sheriff. And they have more kidnapping experience. But I've also heard that there were mistakes made at the beginning of the investigation, and I don't know if that's true because I don't know what they have done or haven't done. I know it took, quite a long time to get that video evidence. I wish she had I keep saying it and beating a dead horse here, but I wish she had a subscription for her Nest doorbell camera because then they could have got this video immediately, especially with her cell phone being left behind at the scene of the crime. They would have had that video immediately, even with the camera being taken. They would have had it immediately. Absolutely. I've said that 100 times. Check the will, the living trust, the estate, any way she has it set up. Look at the property, look at the bank accounts, look at everybody involved, look at the financials, follow the money. Follow the money. And I know, a lot of people are crapping on Ashley Banfield right now, saying, well, she lost her job. with News Nation, and she's just saying all this for clicks. And I just don't believe that at all. I still think that her information that the son-in-law either is or was a suspect, I still think that's valid. But the word is suspect. The word is not guilty. The word is a suspect. I still believe that's true. I don't think they would spend over a week at the sister and brother-in-law's home and tow away their car and not bring it back. Look how quick they were to pull over that DoorDash driver last night, and before people could even go online and report it, he was already let go. I mean, like that, let go. The crime scene has been yellow taped at least twice and released twice, but yet all the CSI guys, for 7-8 days are over at the Annie Guthrie house. Why is that? Why have they not eliminated them yet? It's possible it might not be solved for a long time, unfortunately. Sadly, that's true. Karen says uncles and aunts of Savannah on both sides of the family, cousins. Are you saying to look into aunts and uncles and cousins? Oh, check the financials of everybody. Yeah, exactly. But if the ransom deadline has come and gone, and if that was paid, and they have no body, they have no person, they have no Nancy, they have no further communication, that's very, very bad. Of course, I didn't expect them to get communication. In fact, I strongly believe that if you don't have proof of life, that you don't pay a ransom, no matter what the deal is. No matter if she had $1 billion, I wouldn't pay it either if I didn't have proof of life. But I'm also not in her shoes. But yeah, exactly. And it's not that they couldn't get it back, but I don't think that's a concern of hers right now. Her concern is to find her mother. And I know that, Tommaso's still lying low, but, maybe he just, is he still teaching school? They don't have a car right now. How's he getting to work, Who's paying the bills right now while all this is going on and nobody's going to work? I mean, Savannah she could survive, forever and never work again. But NBC, they still have to pay her. She's under contract. And, they've had to bring Hoda Cobb back to the Today Show. She'd already left the Today Show. They brought her back. She's filling in for a while until they figure out what the hell they're going to do. They even had to send other people to the Olympics. Annie's house is about 10 minutes. I don't know if it's also located in the Catalina Foothills or Catalina Foothills Estates, but it's 10 minutes away. I don't think Tucson's really that big of a town. And even though the mother's house looks very remote and secluded and it's in the middle of nowhere, it really isn't. It's right off I looked at a map, it's very close to the I-10. Which here in California, we just say the 10. We say the 5, the 10, the 405. We're the only people in the country that say the and then the number. We don't say interstate, highway, tollway. It's the freeway or it's the 10. But yeah, she's right off the main, that's a transcontinental interstate that goes from the Santa Monica Pier all the way to the east coast of Florida. Yeah, people that are not from California, they just are like, what? What are people talking about? We go to other states and it sounds weird to us when people are like Interstate 65, like the I-65. Well, what's an I-65? It would be the 65 in California, not the I-65. And then you go to like New Jersey and it's the expressways and the tollways, and everybody in California is like, what? Like, what is that? I've got my mojo. Hey, have you ever had any kidnapping experience in your career? Yes, I have. A little bit. A little bit. Some has involved missing children, some has involved domestic cases between parents, and some has involved celebrity cases involving kidnappings or threat of kidnappings, and a lot of those things never get in the news because they're kept on the sly. But I'm not an expert at it like the guy that I talked about him on my Sunday video. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. Quick getaway for the kidnappers. Absolutely. You could just be on that highway or freeway, and well, they don't call it freeway there. Let's just say the 10 in 5 minutes. And, that goes all the way across the United States. It starts at the Santa Monica Pier. At the beginning of the pier is the start of the 10. And it's the start of Route 66. That's where Route 66 starts, on the pier. And then you drive off the pier and you get on PCH. And that's right there. There's a tunnel there and it's like a big curve. And that's the start of the 10. And you can literally stay on that and you can go across California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. Takes about 2 days. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and all the way across to the east coast of Florida. So from the Pacific to the Atlantic. I have done celebrity kidnapping and threat of kidnapping situation. That's why when this first happened, my immediate spidey senses went, oh my God, she's Savannah Guthrie's mother and somebody's targeting Savannah Guthrie. And that still could be the case. But as more information came out, and then I started leaning more towards the percentages that it's somebody that they know. And it could be a little bit of both. It could be somebody that she knows, but they also know, obviously, that she's the mother of Savannah Guthrie, who has a lot of money, and, she could pay a ransom. But the person that did this may not be the person or people who sent the ransom notes. Those could just be money grubbers. But it's just that the initial ransom notes had information that pertained to the Apple Watch that was left on the nightstand in her bedroom. And if it was just some random guy like in, Nigeria or Pakistan, like, well, how would they know about the Apple Watch being on the nightstand? That points to somebody that has been in her house before, that knows that's where she keeps the watch when she's asleep. Like, or they were in the house at the time of the crime. But that could also be somebody sending a red herring, just like the door being broken. She may have answered the doorbell. She may have come downstairs in the middle of the night. And like I said, they said that about the stairs, and I still don't understand that, because on the news, it looks like a one-story place, but supposedly there's some stairs involved. And they're like, how did they get her down the stairs? So I haven't seen the inside of the house, and it's not like I can look it up on Zillow or one of those real estate websites, because she's lived there since 1975. Didn't know what. How's it feel? I've got my mojo. How do you feel about Andy's home being searched seemingly a lot? I think they should have rolled it out in 1 or 2 days. The fact that they're still searching, that speaks volumes. That's all I'm going to say about that. They're still searching that house and that property. There's obviously a reason. There's something that they're looking for. Someone wanting Bitcoin for ransom seems somewhat computer savvy. Yes, well, the person, Harvey Levitt, described the first ransom, at least the one that he was emailed, or well, his organization was emailed, as written by somebody very intelligent. But like I said, the ransom writer could be not directly involved in this. There's so many possibilities right now, and I think that's why the police, once they had that video from the Nest doorbell, they were like, we have to release this because this is all we have. And when I saw that, I kind of had a sick feeling, because it was like, geez, they really don't know who did this. And that person could be working for somebody else. Someone wanting Bitcoin. Okay, we just read that. Yeah, I don't know anything about Bitcoin. And, as a PI, I have to know a little bit about everything. But that's one thing that I will admit, I don't know anything about that kind of thing. It's just sounds too sketchy to me. But I'm sure when I've left this earth and in the future, there won't even be someday there won't even be paper money anymore. Everything will be digital currency. But Bitcoin, I've not a clue. And I have to know so much for my job. I have to be a jack of all trades. I have to know things that a doctor would know, or a nurse, or a lawyer, or a real estate agent, or an accountant. There's just so much I have to know. I have to be a jack of all trades. But Bitcoin, I know that it's digital currency and that there's no actual physical coin. If anybody here knows more about it, feel free to type it into the chat. So is everybody else still kind of in the same ballpark that I'm in, that this is still related to somebody she knew? And does everybody also have, I hate to say this, but the same sinking feeling in their hearts that she's no longer with us, and it's just a matter of time of recovering her remains? I hope not. Yeah, I've got my mojo says yeah. So many people feel that way. Everybody thought when I went down the psychic rabbit hole over the weekend, they thought, oh, she's alive and she's going to be returned Monday because, someone's going to pay the ransom and she was going to be returned on Monday. Didn't happen. Tuesday, didn't happen. And then I thought we finally had a break in the case last night when they, had a person of interest that they pulled over for questioning. And I don't know why he was specifically targeted, but at this time, it doesn't look like he's involved because they would have either arrested him or they would have detained him longer. I know he still didn't have his phone back, and that everybody that lived in that house, his mother-in-law's house, that they took all their phones. Joseph says, I really think it's within the circle of friends and family, not an outsider. I think so too. And if it's not, then it's somebody that's targeting Savannah Guthrie. It's that simple. I don't think anybody's after this little sweet old lady. Like the person that arranged the kidnapping of JonBenet Ramsey didn't say, hey, let's go get that little girl. Let's get the parents. Let's get some money. And then everything, went to crap. It all went to hell in a handbag, like the movie Fargo. Everything went wrong. And then you had, non-experienced detectives that had never worked a homicide before. And I've heard a retired detectives saying they didn't like what was going on in that sheriff's department, and that a lot of the people that are involved in that unit, that they are very non-experienced. And because the ransom was sent, if you send a ransom through email or by letter, that immediately, because that right there, that's enough to get the feds involved. And I'm glad they were called in, because they've probably been able to do things that the sheriff's department hasn't been able to do. But they're not they're not the best of the best. You know they're good. They're good in kidnappings. But we may not be dealing with a kidnapping here. Yes, she's missing. Yes, she was not found in her house, but we don't know. We know that she didn't walk away. Who would have, smashed the cameras if she just walked away? We know that didn't happen. It wasn't a case of an older person who was disoriented and she got up and she walked out of the house that night. We know that didn't happen. But what did happen, I'd sure like to know what they found inside that house as far as evidence and blood, and what did they find in the house? Why are they targeting the home of Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Cioni? Why are they still there? 8, 9, 10 days later. Totally off Guthrie, but how do you feel about the Lindbergh kidnapping? I don't know anything of that. Was before my time. I don't know anything about that. The ransom note on the Ramsey case seems very strange to me. Yes and no. It wasn't written in the house. It was written on a pad of paper in the house, but it wasn't written in the house. The person, it was written way in advance, and they had plenty of time, and they were under no duress when they wrote it. And no, it wasn't the typical ransom either, but they weren't typical kidnappers either. And there was more than one person involved. Just wondered if you ever looked at that out of curiosity. You mean the Ramsey case? Yeah, I know a lot about that case, if that's what you're referring to. But no, I'm not. I'm not licensed in the state of Colorado. A lot of PIs actually went to jail and lost their license for going into Colorado to work on that. Oh, somebody asked that on another line? Oh, hey, hello, Yvonne. Oh, no, you meant Lindbergh. No, I don't know anything about that. I know that a baby named the Lindbergh baby was kidnapped, but I don't know anything about that. Don't know. Can can you tell us about it? Are you asking me, Yvonne? Or are you asking I've Got Mojo? Yeah, I don't know much about that. I do know, I probably shouldn't say it. I can't go into details, but before I was born, there was a kidnapping that was in my own family, but I wasn't born yet. And the FBI was involved. And this was a long time ago. This was like, this was long before I was on the planet. It was probably in the early 40s, maybe mid 40s. And the victim's family was told by the FBI that it was definitely somebody within the family that had committed the crime. The person was returned at the end of the day. A ransom was demanded and not paid, but the person was returned safely. And the FBI said, you need to look in your own family. And the parents of it was a child said, no, that didn't come from our family. We don't have that kind of family. And many decades later, in the 1960s, a clue came in. Even though the case was no longer open, a clue came in that linked somebody in the family. So um, I learned about it when I was a child. I don't remember the age that I learned about it. I learned that, somebody in my own family, a blood relative, had been kidnapped many, many decades before I was born. And the FBI said from day one that the main suspect is the family. And it was never solved. And years later, it turned out that there was a family member that was connected. And that family member was already deceased by then. And I don't think it was ever followed up on. I don't think they went to the FBI or the police all those decades later and said, oh my God, now we know. So yeah, you never really know someone. That's so true, Yvonne. Everybody listen to Yvonne. Uh, yeah. And, when I was a child, because of that, my parents, specifically my mom, because she was her family was involved in this story. She was always terrified that I would be kidnapped. Like, oh, don't do this, and don't walk up to a strange car, and you know, watch out from a strange man, and you could be kidnapped, and that was a lot to deal with when I was a kid. I was always on the lookout, like, oh my God, is somebody gonna nab me? Um, because it came from my mother's side of the family, and there was this horrible fear on that side of the family that this can happen, because it happens. It's not just in the movies, that is real life, and it happens. And so I always had my spidey senses about me since I was old enough to know. um, to watch out and stay away from strangers and be very careful. In a weird way, it could have influenced my choice. I've always had this Batgirl complex to help people. That would be a good question to ask a psychologist. In Nancy's case, most kidnappings want the money right away and return person or give directions to body. Absolutely. They should have had that ransom note Sunday, the day it happened, and they didn't. Everything about this doesn't smell like a typical kidnapping. Yes, Hasafel says. Yeah, nothing about this adds up. I'd sure like to know why they went after Carlos Parasuelos last night. I'd like to know that. I think something just came in through the tip line. It could have been somebody just out to, like, I don't know, ruffle his feathers. I don't know. He seemed pretty relaxed on the news. He didn't seem all like freaked out, and he was just like, bro. He kept saying bro, in the interviews with the news. And then his mother was actually being like on cell phones. People were holding up phones to her, like, do you recognize that this is the pictures that just came up from the kidnapped lady? Like, do you recognize this guy? Is this your son-in-law? And she was like, no, that's not him. Like, those are not his clothes. I can vouch for him. Like, where was he on Sunday, February 1st? He was in my house. He lives with me right now. Like, he goes into Tucson Monday through Friday, but he's home every weekend and he's home every evening. And, I can vouch for him. And she seems shocked. Uh, yeah, I would think that they have a search warrant, High Flyer Bill. I think they would have a search warrant, but yet they were saying that they broke her door down. And they also said that she and us did she say her son or her son-in-law that they were playing video games when somebody broke the door down. But at the same time, the son-in-law that was pulled over, he was still on the side of the road. So it could have been him at home playing video games because he wasn't released yet. He was on the side of the road with his wife and kids in handcuffs going, what the F is going on? Like, what happened? What happened? And in the meantime, there was some life flight helicopter that just happened to pick up an 84-year-old woman in Rio Rico, Arizona. Like, what are the chances? And everybody, all these reporters and internet sleuths and YouTubers were running to the hospital. I think Karen named it earlier. We're running to the hospital in Tucson thinking, oh my God, are they bringing in Nancy Guthrie? But completely unrelated, apparently. Because I think had Nancy Guthrie been found and been brought into a hospital last night, I don't think they could have kept that silent. He's a FedEx driver and grandkids, okay? Are you talking about the Mrs. Maddox who said that somebody broke her door down and that they were playing video games? I know that he was with his wife and children when they were pulled over in a Nissan Rogue, but he also owns a white van that he uses for his package delivery. He could have been to Nancy's house because he works for multiple companies, not just DoorDash, but he also works for some package delivery companies. And so they even asked him that, have you ever been there? And he's like, I don't know. Like, those guys deliver 20, 30 packages a day, and they do it every day. Like, who the heck knows? That'd be like asking me in a city the size of Los Angeles, have you ever been on that street? Like, in a 40-year career, probably. I mean, it was only 35 years in the field because then I had to stop because of cancer. But yeah, like, I don't know if I've ever been on that street before. Maybe, like, sometimes I would. Oh yeah, like Beverly Hills, my career started there. I go there all the time. But have I been on each individual street or each individual house? Sometimes you go out and do a case, and you're like, I think I've been on the street before. I think I've been in this neighborhood before. I think I've been in this grocery store before. Like, have I eaten here before? Like, because you're everywhere. Like, who knows? Has he been there before? But maybe he has. Let's see. Yvonne says someone said a white man was in the area the week before. Yes, a neighbor said that. And this guy happened to, he uses a white van for his package delivery sometimes, but it's been broken since Friday and it's at the mother-in-law's house where he's currently living. So they were like, Hispanic guy with a white van with tinted windows. Oh my God, you know. You know how many people fit that description? And we don't know that the guy wearing the mask is Hispanic. He might be. He didn't look African American, but it's hard to tell in the dark with a mask on. But he looked white or Hispanic. And when I say white, I mean like Caucasian white versus Caucasian Hispanic white. Poor guy and mom of It's Not Them at All. Yeah, he got his 15 minutes of fame. And if they did break her door down without a warrant, which I doubt, you know, she may want to talk to a lawyer today to see, you know, see what her rights are. Mixed. What is mixed? His race could be mixed. Anything is possible. And that guy, whoever he is, the guy that was at the door, he's definitely involved. But is he the only one involved? And is he working for somebody? You know, the kidnapping that occurred in my family in the 1940s, the person that did the kidnapping was just, you know, the hired heavy. But that wasn't the person that was behind it. You know, the person that had JonBenet Ramsey kidnapped knew the family and was very familiar with the house. They couldn't go out and do it themselves. They had to hire some scumbag. And you know what's crazy about that whole thing is they have a whole list of suspects, and it turns out that one of the prime suspects that was in the top 5 uh, dated someone that was in the primary's family. But the police never put that together, that there was a connection between this suspect and this suspect. Like, they're like, well, these people aren't related to these people, but they kind of were. So it's just very bad police work. It'll probably never be solved. They say it will be, but I don't think so. You think Husafel says it's at least 4 people involved. Could be. How did they get the body out of the house? If you know, whether she was alive or dead, how'd they get her out of the house? She's bleeding and she can barely walk. And she weighed 150 pounds. How did they get her out? The back door was left open in Nancy's house. Yeah, and was that intentional? Where was the forced entry? Was it legitimately a forced entry, or was the forced entry a red herring that was planted after the fact? Like the ransom letters, after the fact. Way after the fact. Days after the crime. You don't hold somebody for kidnapping for days and then send the ransom and then give a deadline of that's another several days. And then, hey, if you don't do this deadline, then it's this deadline. And that's another 3-4 days out. Like, come on. They do have some sort of evidence that something happened in the house because there was blood in the house. Someone knew the layout of the house. They have been there before, most likely. But apparently they didn't know about the other camera or whatever equipment was up on that roof. And now supposedly some type of lighting in the back was smashed or broken or removed. But they haven't said a lot about that. Blood outside also, yes, but then the blood, it didn't lead anywhere. It just stops. I'd like to know more about the blood in the house and where that was found. And then I could kind of add that in with the blood that was found in front of the house that we know is the victims. Because they got the police dogs from the Border Patrol, and those dogs couldn't hit on it. It didn't have a trail. It ended there. It didn't even go to the driveway. And that makes no sense. You know, was she wrapped up? Like, I don't know. Was she even alive when they removed her from the house? In the garage, I think they were in the house and garage with the lights off a few nights in. What was in the garage? The suspects? Or officers, okay. Yeah, they went back to the house after they had unsecured the crime scene. They did go back and resecure the crime scene so they could go look in the garage. And then they unsecured it, and then a few days later they came back and another time and towed her car away, which I think is very interesting. Why was it secured, unsecured, secured, and then unsecured? I know. If you're going to be there 56 times, you know. That's when they carried her or wrapped her body up when blood trail stopped. Yeah, the blood trail did apparently not go to the actual driveway. I don't know where the blood was found inside the house. I only know about the blood drippings at the front door that have confirmed through DNA to be her own blood. There's so much we don't know. Yes, they towed Nancy and Annie's car, but they towed Annie's car long before they towed Nancy's car. And if they were simply just trying to rule the immediate family out, I think they would have done that within a couple of days. We wouldn't be this far into it and they're still going over the house getting evidence. There's a lot that we don't know. They're not going to reveal their hand. They're not going to reveal their cards. Understandably so. This is a crime. There's a lot resting on all this, you know, like there's just this is just it's so big and it involves, you know, a famous person's mother and you know, somebody came in, I can't remember who it was. I apologize if it was somebody who's here tonight, but somebody came in and said, "Hey, Sheriff Nanos, I saw him at a such and such basketball game." And I was like, "What? Like, are you serious?" Like, I thought they were joking. Like, is that true? And then I've since heard that, yeah, he did go to, like, I think it was a college game or something. He went to a game, like, in Arizona. Like, what? Like, aren't you working this case 24 hours a day, man? What are you doing, you know, at a basketball game? It seems like Annie's family has some knowledge of this terrible crime. In my opinion, very possible. Yvonne says that backpack looks full, could have had tarps in it. Yeah, you know, they didn't take the backpack in so they could steal things from the house because it was stuffed to the brim. Looked kind of heavy. There was quite a bit of things in that backpack or something that was big and heavy. There was no room to, like, they didn't go in there with the intention to take something and let's you know, put it in the backpack. God, I would hate to think that it was tarps, but that's possible. Boston Bill, I think she either was raped or tied. Her hands may cause bleeding. Was she carried out with a cut on her head or legs causing the blood, then carried, leaving no trail? I don't know. And why have the back door open? What was the purpose of that? Oh, not raped. She was wrapped. Okay, I think she either was wrapped up or tied her hands, caused bleeding, or was she carried out with a cut on her head or legs causing the blood, then carried, leaving no trail? Don't know. It's a good question. You know, I got to go take care of some things. I appreciate everybody that's here. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Send me some red hearts. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that little bell. And then you'll be notified anytime I go live. And thank you, every one of you. Appreciate you. Have a good evening.